Hi everyone, it's Katrina. From the father of all monsters to giant ocean beasts that terrorize ships, here are 10 of the biggest creatures from world mythology. Number 10. Yowie. The Yowie is essentially an Australian version of Bigfoot, but much, much bigger. Rather than being human-sized, this mysterious creature of the outback is said to be as much as 10 to 15 feet tall. It's been a part of Aboriginal folklore for centuries, and the Kuku-Yalanji tribe from northern Queensland have a long history of encounters with it. They're able to blend perfectly into the background and are virtually impossible to detect until it's too late. Of the thousands of apparent sightings, most result in an attack, and the tribes that speak of it tell of countless losses at the hands of the beast. The first written record of the Yowie comes from Sydney in 1790, and since then they have been seen across Australia. It's thought, though, that they do have a region which they call home, but it's so remote that as of yet, humans haven't set foot there. Number 9. Jormungandr. Jormungandr comes from Norse mythology and is one of the biggest creatures ever imagined. One of the children of Loki and also known as the Midgard serpent, this humongous snake lives in the ocean that encircles Midgard. As Midgard represents the visible world, it can therefore be inferred that Jormungandr is so long that it wraps all the way around the earth and was used to explain earthquakes and unusual tides and waves at sea. Jormungandr's biggest enemy was Thor, and they regularly battled each other. In one legend, Thor is fishing for the serpent but fails to pull him from the water when he's warned by the giant Heimir that this will cause Ragnarok, the end of existence, so he severs the line and lets the beast go. In the end, though, when Ragnarok does arrive, Thor and Jormungandr become embroiled in a battle of the ages. The serpent is killed by repeated blows from Thor's hammer, but the god of thunder was covered in so much venom during the encounter that he would only be able to take 9 paces before falling to the ground dead. Number 8. The Kraken. Thought to have originated in 12th century Norwegian mythology, the Kraken is a sea monster that strikes fear in the heart of every sailor. The creature, with many arms and in some texts said to be as large as an island, could reach out of the water as high as a ship's mast and was easily powerful enough to pull entire boats beneath the waves. It would eat any surviving crew and leave very few people to tell the tale of its attacks. So sure were seafarers of the time that the Kraken truly existed that it was even included in an 18th century book, the Systema Naturae, as a real animal. Some records from earlier stated that it was at least 1.5 miles in size, and it could create a vast whirlpool to trap ships. It also attracted large shoals of fish wherever it went, so sailors would spot these first, try to catch them, and be taken by surprise when the beast finally emerged. The tale of the Kraken was probably a way to explain losses at sea, which happened frequently for various reasons, as you know, but the descriptions of the Kraken mean that many believe it was based upon a real animal, the giant squid. We know that they're aggressive enough to be the culprit, as squids attacked ships at least 3 times in the 1930s. Although they lost the encounters after becoming embroiled in the propellers, earlier vessels relied on oars and sails, so could easily have fallen victim to them. The Kraken remains in seafaring folklore, and sailors often refer to the dangers of encountering it when embarking on lengthy voyages. And now for number 7, but first wanted to give a quick shout out to Lo Jingyang and Todd Dembski for being so awesome. If you are new here, be sure to subscribe and join the Origins Explained family, and let me know your favorite mythological creature in the comments below. Number 7. The Ziz. Imagine a bird so huge that when it opened its wings, it could completely block out the light from the sun. Well, that's exactly what Ziz did, a griffin-like creature from Jewish mythology. It's described as being to the skies what the Leviathan was to the seas, and with its ankles resting on the ground, its head reaches right into the sky. In one legend, a boat crew saw the Ziz with its feet in the water and assumed this meant it wasn't very deep. They were about to go for a swim when a heavenly voice warned them not to, and soon after, an axe was dropped from the deck, which took 7 years to sink to the bottom. That's how deep it was. When Ziz unfurled its wings, the sky darkened, and they protected against the powerful winds from the south. One Ziz released an egg that cracked on the ground, and the liquid from it flooded 60 cities and crushed 300 cedar trees. The name Ziz comes from the description of what its flesh tastes like, and its ultimate fate, like the Leviathan, will be to feed the pious at the end of time. Number 6. Asphodel Colonia. The ancient Greeks spoke of a giant sea monster called the Asphodel Colonia, which translates to mean asp turtle, and it was a source of great fear for sailors across the empire. In a text from the 2nd century AD, it was described as being either an enormous whale or a turtle, one that had spines across the ridge of its back, and would often be mistaken for an island or a large rock. This, according to legend, was how sailors accidentally would run into the beast and make it angry. They saw what they thought was land, set up camp for the night, and began a fire to cook their food. Startled and wanting to extinguish the flames, the beast would then wake up and dive into the water, taking all of the crew and the ship with it. When it was hungry, it was said to emit a sweet scent to attract fish, and simply needed to open its mouth to let them swim in. It's because of this description that this creature was most likely based upon a whale, and although they don't grow to the size of islands, like is said in many of the stories, they would certainly have seemed huge in the water against the profile of the ships that were used at the time. Number 5. Baja Moot. Baja Moot is a fish from Arabic and Hebrew mythology, and according to the text, this creature was ginormous. It was said to swim beneath the cosmos and supported the entire earth upon its back. While no human could see Baja Moot because it is so large, without it, we would all be plunged into darkness. To give an example of just how big it was believed to be, one legend said that all of the waters in the world placed into his nostrils would be like a mustard seed in the desert. As for its appearance, there are some conflicting descriptions. Some say he has the head of a hippo or an elephant, or even a sea serpent with powerful arms and razor-sharp teeth. This was an incredibly strong and powerful creature, and it held far more than just the earth. It was said that upon Baja Moot's back was a bull called Kujata. On Kujata's back was a ruby mountain, and on top of that was an angel. The angel held the 7 stages of Earth, which is thought to be a reference to the stellar objects that were known at the time: the Sun, the Moon, Mercury, Venus, Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. This creature was a way to represent the entire universe, known at the time. Baja Moot had other powers too. He was able to confuse human vision and had a roar that was so loud during the summer solstice that it could tame the wild predators of Earth and make them less vicious for the rest of the year. Number 4. Scolopendra. Often associated with the Kraken because of its enormous size and aggressive behavior, the Scolopendra is a giant fish creature from Greek mythology that attacked unsuspecting sailors. Said to be a child of Keto and Phorcys, it had hairy nostrils, a tail similar to that of a crayfish, and webbed feet along its sides. It was thought to be easily big enough to sink ancient Greek ships called triremes and were mentioned in various legends. It was often sent by the gods to wreak havoc on those who had attracted their wrath, and even at more than 200 feet long, ships didn't stand a chance against it. The name also means centipede in Greek, and in a sign of what the ancients thought of this beast, it is used to describe some of the more colorful and vicious species around the Mediterranean. Number 3. The Roc. There are lots of birds mentioned in mythologies from around the world, but by far the largest is the roc, which is thought to have originated in stories from India around the year 39 AD. Looking similar to an eagle, it had a wingspan of at least 48 feet and had a long, thin, forked tongue like that of a snake. So powerful was the roc that it was able to capture elephants in its talons and fly away with them, and it didn't think twice about grabbing and devouring humans. One of the most famous myths that mention the roc is that of Sinbad the sailor. While on a voyage, his ship became stranded on some rocks, and a giant bird came down, took him, and left him in a nest. The bird flew off and perched on a mountain, and Sinbad was left on his own next to an egg. As hunger took over, he decided to eat the egg, which angered the roc, and resulted in it dropping huge boulders on his ship, which left it completely destroyed and killed all of the remaining crew. Number 2. Sipa. In the beginning, according to many myths, there was only water. But how did the land come to be? According to the Aztecs, it was all because of Cipactli, an evil, vicious sea demon. Their creation myth says that there were 4 gods that represented the directions of north, south, east, and west, known as Huitzilopochtli, Tezcatlipoca, Xipetotec, and Quetzalcoatl. They began by creating the water, the other gods, and their first life form, Cipactli. Physically, it was described in various different ways, such as a crocodile with varying features from toads and fish, or as a demon, or a nondescript monster. It was supremely powerful and eternally hungry, and would eat anything that it could. This became a problem for the gods as they tried to create things because Sipa would eat everything as soon as it existed. He was starving. They decided they had to destroy the monster to be able to continue, and so came up with a plan. Tezcatlipoca lured it and lost a foot in the process, but the others managed to capture it and pulled its body in all directions. As it tore apart, the universe was released from inside it. Its head was then used to create the heavens, its tail became the underworld, and its midsection was what became the land we walk on Earth. For a creature to be turned into the entire universe, it surely had to be unimaginably huge. Number 1. Typhon. Greek mythology is full of monsters of all sizes, but undoubtedly the biggest of all was Typhon, the most powerful and feared of all the gods, and the father of all the monsters. He was so tall that his head touched the stars. He had the torso of a human, legs and arms that were made of coiled vipers that hissed as he walked, and on his head were more than 100 giant snakes. His eyes glowed red, he could breathe fire, and he had hundreds of wings across his body. Typhon married Echidna, and together they had children that included the Sphinx, the Mannaean lion, the Hydra, the Chimera, and the underworld's guard dog Cerberus. Because of his power, Typhon was in eternal conflict with Zeus, and following a 10,000-year battle against the other gods, he was eventually trapped beneath Mount Etna, forever restricted to only be able to vent his power through the volcano. Thanks for watching! Which one was your favorite? Let me know if you would like to hear more about other creatures in the comments below. Remember to subscribe, and I'll see you soon!